There's this disconnect between creating content, having an audience, and making money. Business owners, for some reason, can't intuitively make that connection. Like, to me, it's very obvious what the connection is between content creation and growing your audience and then having people to sell stuff to. You know what I mean? So people with short attention spans can't be great business owners. I'm sorry. Because literally in business, you want to fall in love with being bored. I think it was James Clear who said that, right? You have to fall in love with being bored, with doing the same things over and over again until they start to work.
Welcome back to the Smiley House Podcast. Today we have an incredible guest. Her name is Cynthia Dieyi, an award-winning Hollywood producer turned content clinician. She's going to take care of and fix any issues that you have to bring health into your content. She's also a successful entrepreneur, content creator, YouTuber, TikToker, Instagrammer, the whole thing. There's so much value. Buckle up. This is going to be a good one. Okay, cool. Have you used Riverside before?
I have. I on another person's podcast, just like this one. So
cool. Do you like it?
I like it. I like what it does with the footage. I think that's the biggest benefit, right? Would you agree?
Yeah. And then because it gives me both like the separate, so it gives like your video file and my video file separate, which is so cool. And then I started using what is it freaking called? This plugin for Final or for Premiere, Autopod. Have you heard of that?
I have not, but I'm like a fervent user of Premiere Pro and the whole Adobe like creative suite. So, but tell me about that.
It's incredible. So I mean, I should got a sponsorship for this, right? But so Autopod, it's chopping up my timeline for podcasts. So, for example, with Riverside, I can get your video file, my video file. Then it knows when we're both talking, like who's talking, and it will cut up, right? Sort of like show you, show me. And so instead of like us side by side the whole time, I'll export this side by side. So like as one, it's like almost like a 3-camera type cut. Isn't that cool?
Wow, that is very cool.
It's like, crazy. It just chops it up. And I'm like, holy crap, this is really good. And then all I have to do is take that one master audio file and obviously polish that a little bit. But isn't that cool?
That's so cool. So it's crazy. I haven't really delved into the world of AI. Call me old school or whatever, but I like to get in there, get in the trenches and do things on my own, right? But it's crazy what AI can do these days and how easy and automated it's making some of the tools that we use on a daily basis. It's insane. It is
because like that's the biggest thing. Like I'm like, man, I'm the same as you, right? I'm an old school editor, been editing over 15 years. Right? It's like give me the camera, I'm gonna hop in the edit and I'll do the edit myself. And that's what I did even on my YouTube channel when I was growing it. Is I did 550 videos straight with zero breaks every single day for 550 days straight. Edited them all myself, filmed them all myself, produced them all myself. And I was like, I'm going in. And then it got to a point where I was like, man, I got kids, I got like this family life. I've got all these other things I got to do this. And so like, that's kind of like almost like now why I started looking at ways to be more efficient without spending a ton of money on hiring a bunch of people to do all these edits, right? Because I also have my vlogging channel, which is like kind of like the full-time thing. And then I also am educating on YouTube and now the podcast, right? So I'm like got all these types of content that is going on a weekly basis, like full time. So I was like, man, let me just try this thing, this Autopod thing and see if it actually works. And then it hit me. I was like, whoa, if I take those two, right, and these three, do a 3-camera type cut and then just let it chop through it. And then I'll go back through the timeline and like make some adjustments. So I was like, that's really weird that it had like a close up and where like somebody else is talking or something. So it's not 100% perfect, but it did save me a lot of time.
It's like having an assistant editor. Right?
It is.
Like having an assistant editor.
They get to like 80% of the way there and you're like, I still got to fix like the 20%.
Yep. And then you finish it up. I'm right there with you, bro. I spent most of yesterday and the day before that editing my YouTube video because I do have an editor, but I know that it's funny. I have still not found, I guess it just speaks to the amount of experience I have, but I've still not found people who work for me who are as efficient and as quick as I am.
Yep.
Right? Yep. So if I need a video edited by my editor, he'll be like, if I give it to him on like Tuesday or Monday, he'll be like, oh yeah, it'll be ready by Friday. I'm like, no, bro, I need this tomorrow, So
exactly.
I just started editing. So I took it on my own and, I wrapped it up by 7:30 p.m. last night before my YouTube video went live.
So, Let's go.
Let's go.
Yep. So what's funny is I'm actually doing the same right now on YouTube, where it's like, if we don't figure out our process, right, exactly how to do it, how are we going to train somebody else to do it? You know what I mean? So it's like, I feel like it is so important. Like, even when I'm educating people on YouTube, like, people will ask me all the time, like,
Yo, listen, I need to interrupt this podcast episode for a second with a YouTube growth opportunity that I would feel guilty if I kept it all to myself. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, content creator, or aspiring YouTube star, and you've been wondering how long should your videos be? What topics should your videos be about? What's the best lighting, cameras, and audio for YouTube? Or maybe you've been stuck for a while and you can't get this channel to grow, or you've never been able to monetize on your channel yet. Well, guess what? I understand, because that shit happens. I took my vlogging channel from 0 subscribers to 1.6 million subscribers, over 500 million views, generating over 6 figures per month in income, resulting in multiple 7-figure earnings just from content. If this sounds like you and something that interests you, I have an opportunity to work directly with me so I can help you see some massive YouTube growth, ultimately helping grow your business beyond what you even thought possible, leveraging the power of YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, social media. Let's go. So I'm looking for good people who want to turn content into cash and go further faster on YouTube. To get started, text the word YouTube to 888-504-5450. Again, text the word YouTube to 888-504-5450 to get started. Or click the link in the description box below or in the show notes to book a one-on-one call with me so we can chat YouTube together. Okay, back to our regular podcast.
like, people ask me all the time, like, oh, should I learn how to edit? Should I learn? I'm like, absolutely, you should learn how to edit. I'm like, and people don't want to hear that because they want to be fast. They just want to jump right in. And I get that there's that level of like, hey, we got to get in, we got to get going fast. We're a business owner. But I'm still like under the belief the same, like with like, if you're going to train a sales team, you got to learn how to sell your own product first so you can train your sales team to go out and sell your stuff, right? Because you're the one connected to it. And that's how I feel about like YouTube videos or videos just in general, content in general. It's like, you got to learn your own content. You got to put in the time to edit it, find your voice, find your style, and then you can teach somebody else to kind of clone that aspect of what you were doing. You know what I mean?
I absolutely agree. You know, like as you're speaking right now, I'm trying to think from the business owner's perspective, because I work with a lot of business owners. So what I do is I help business owners create content that creates cash. You know, I was in a coaching call this morning. It's funny. And my coach basically agreed with me. And there's this disconnect between creating content, having an audience, and making money. Business owners, for some reason, can't intuitively make that connection. Like, to me, it's very obvious what the connection is between content creation and growing your audience and then having people to sell stuff to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But most business owners don't understand that connection, you know. So I was on a coaching call this morning, and my coach was like, yeah, like, you'd be surprised that many business owners don't know that connection. And so a lot of my job is to help them make that connection, like help them make that logical connection between their content, their audiences, and the money they make. But the reason why I bring that up is I work with a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs, and one of the things they struggle with is just time, right? So as you're saying that, like, I have the benefit. I tell people all the time, I worked in Hollywood, so I've had the benefit of being able to intuitively learn how to use software. Like, there is no software you can throw at me that I can't figure out. That's like, you know, but I feel like for most business owners, it might feel overwhelming. So, like, what do you think? What would you say to that?
Oh, I would 100% agree.
Yeah. So it's like, I always tell business owners, I still haven't found a good enough video editing substitute for Premiere Pro, just the level and depth of what Premiere Pro can do. I just haven't seen that anywhere else, right? So you have like CapCut and some of those like mobile video editing tools.
Right.
It's just the level of depth, like the level of like, you could get into like nitty gritty.
Yeah, it's like, it's there. It's a real editing software.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, these other ones are created so like, it's all artificial in a sense. Like, it's all like CapCut, you can put like the sunglasses, it's just fun, right? Like, it's not like a real, like, you're not going to be able to, I mean, you could tell a story if you were a really good storyteller and you could find a way to maybe connect with like the Gen Z or what Gen Alpha, you know, the younger audience too, where they're going to probably like all the weird stuff and, you know what I mean, that kind of thing. But it's not cinema, you know what I mean? And like, that's the thing, right? And I think that's
yeah.
Yeah, I think to me, like that's the thing is like Premiere gives me that ability to make something that feels depth, but with depth, right? Like you're saying, like, and then honestly, I kind of do like DaVinci Resolve.
Oh yeah, results isn't bad at all.
It's not bad. It's not bad. It's just when you learn something for a long period of time, it's like why if it's not broke, don't fix it, you know? So it's like if you know Premiere and you're able to get what you need out of Premiere, I'm like, why would I jump on everything else? You know, people are like, well, it's this and this and this. And I was like, yeah, but for me, like you said, you're like, I can slam through this edit, I can get it done efficiently, I can get it out within 1 day turnaround time or whatever, versus me going and spending time to like learn a whole new software, new plugins, new whatever it might be. Yeah, I'm with you 100%.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, over to you, bro.
Yeah, that's awesome. So tell me this. You mentioned business owners have a hard time making the connection between content, their audience, and making money. Tell me a little bit more about that. What is that connection?
So I call it the content to cash connection, right? And basically, the best way to explain that connection is to explain my journey. And I'm very honest. I tell people all the time, like people I coach, people I work with, I'm like, I work with people who allow me to be honest because I'm just like no filter honest anyways. So I honestly sort of stumbled upon this connection myself, right? So, like I said, I worked in Hollywood for a couple of years. And before Hollywood, I worked in Nollywood, for whoever is really familiar with like the global film entertainment scene. You know, Nollywood is like Nigeria's Hollywood. And especially the music side of Hollywood is like pretty big right now, globally, all over the world. Like Nigeria, my sister was in Germany last week and she was like, Nigerian music was played in the restaurant. You know what I mean? So, so I worked in Nollywood. I studied communications and multimedia, graduated, worked in Nollywood for like a couple of years. And then I got admitted to University of Southern California in Los Angeles, where I studied strategic public relations for my master's, and then started working in Hollywood, right? So I did that for a while. Creating a bunch of adventure reality type TV shows and stuff like that for that aired across Europe and North America. And then I burned out. I burned out on the job. For anyone who's familiar with Hollywood, right? Like the people I worked with were like hardcore. I'm not going to say more than that because I don't want to dwell on that anymore. However, I burned out and I just decided, you know what, I'm out. And so when I said I was out, I wasn't only out from the job, I was out from the state of LA in general. So I moved over to Atlanta. And after I moved over to Atlanta, I just started to like use my filmmaking skills to create stories, to tell stories about small businesses out here that with the goal of helping them reach out to their potential customers. However, I still hadn't made that content to cash connection. I still felt like content creation was this branding thing. And you know the opinion most people have about branding. Most people have about branding is this thing that you should have, but they don't really know how you use that to make money. They don't really know how it affects the bottom line, right? So when I started to see the connection between content and cash was when I started to use content for myself. And what precipitated that was the pandemic, right? So the pandemic hit. Right before the pandemic hit, I'd been working on a contract, creating a course for small business over here in Atlanta. After the pandemic hit, I had to take that project that started out as like a live action project, recording like courses and all that stuff, and I had to convert it to animation, right? It was a one-man operation. So I took it from a live action, of course I hired like actors and all that stuff to like, read the course material on teleprompters, but then I had to like just convert it to animation, right? So I created the animation and all that stuff. So that's just to let you know, like I've done it all, right? Animation, graphic design. I always tell people like my where I started out was with graphic design. That's like my first love. And when I find the time, it's still something that brings me peace to just like do, and just tinker around with like graphic design and stuff like that. So anyways, long story short, during the pandemic, when, like businesses were shut down, that means a lot of pockets were shut down. I just took the time to start to tell people about what I do, tell people about all the knowledge I gained over the years, my expertise and all that stuff. And something surprising happened, right? There were people who wanted to hear what I had to say. That's not something that's happened to me that explicitly before. And a turning point on that journey for me that, again, like I said, started experimentally, occurred when one day I hadn't posted as early as I usually do. And one of my followers DM'd me and was like, oh, aren't you posting today? And I was like, huh. So there are a group of people like who are not only eager to see my post, eager enough that when they don't see something from me, they check in because they want to see something. And that's when I learned one of the lessons that I continue to use in my content now is if your goal is to create cash, make money, or build your business through your content, ultimately, and I'm sorry to say this for who may not like to hear this, your content is not for you. Your content is for the audience, right? And yep, it's not for you, it's for the audience. So that's when I learned that lesson. And so I started leaning into that lesson. And by the end of 100 days, I'd grown my Instagram page from 0 to over 10,000 followers. And not only that, I had people reaching out to me. The only thing I started my business with was my phone, a free Calendly account, and Instagram. And with the phone, a free Calendly account, and Instagram, I built a 5-figure business in less than 2 months from scratch, right? All I had was my Calendly link, 15-minute discovery call Calendly link in my link in bio. And another surprising thing happened. I saw people booking calls repeatedly. Like there was a 2-month period at the peak of my growth where I booked over like 100 discovery calls. And I was like, what is going on? And that's how I built my business. So that's when my coach also says there's a difference between learning of something and learning something, right? So having taken what I've heard and then used it for myself and saw the results, that's when I finally learned the connection between having an audience and building your business. So yeah, that's it.
That's amazing. That's so cool. See, the thing that I really like too is I feel like everybody, there's a ton of content out, right? There's a ton of content about everybody who's like, hey, I can help you, and then they bounce out and then like, hey, I can help you, with all this stuff. But I think everything is so overcomplicated now, right? You get so many gurus, you got fake gurus all over Instagram, right? You got everybody who claims, oh, I'm only 19 and I made 6,000 million quadrillion dollars, and here's how you could do it too. I'm like, bro, you're 19, like maybe, but you're so young yet, right? You haven't gone through much. So maybe, yes, there's a few tricks. I don't know, maybe got lucky. I don't know what it might be, right? But I think the reality is what you just said. A lot of people who build something sustainable start with just whatever they have, right? Like for example, free Calendly, right? Your Instagram content, right? And you're able to just get on those calls, right? And that's really all it takes. Like you can get on there, you can sell something of value to people because like what you and I both probably know this, right? At this point, because we both sell courses, we both sell these things. Like if people don't see the value, they're never going to buy.
Very true.
You know what I mean? So if you're putting out content that actually provides value, you don't have to convince them that it provides value. They feel it. They recognize value. Like it's very easy for anybody on the planet to recognize value. You know what I mean? And so I think when you're putting out content and you're doing something that maybe is a little bit different so that you get the attention, you don't have to be so over the top with everything. You know what I mean?
I 150% agree. And one of my goals, like you said, there's so many gurus out there. And it's funny, I just dropped a YouTube video where I talked about how a lot of the Instagram gurus and people who talk about like the algorithm and stuff like that, it's all based on assumption, right? Because you can't prove or disprove it. Like whatever you can't prove or disprove is not a science. It's just assumption, right? And even when representatives from like platforms like Instagram come and say like, there's no shadow banning, people say and says, oh yeah, you got shadow banned. I'm like, what? like it's not a thing, bro. But the funny thing is a lot of those people continue to grow in numbers. Now there's a difference between free value and value people want to pay for though. So you have a group of people who maybe grow in numbers because they are sharing all these, tips that people are just curious about, right? So they're growing in numbers, but there's a difference between that kind of value you put out there and value people actually want to pay for, right? That's where you have to take your knowledge to the next level. That's where you have to really dig deep and find your own unique area of insight, right? And that's been my mission for the past 3 years, 4 years. And one of the things that I bring to the table, and I'm sure you may have noticed this, is where it comes to content creation, I don't just approach content on the surface level, because I realized, again, based on my research, I realized that a lot of the things that stop people I help from getting to their goals is not really a lack of knowledge of the strategies and tactics, because like you said, everyone else is doing that stuff for free out there, right? Everyone else is throwing out tactics, they're throwing out strategies and all that stuff. So that's not the problem. The problem is usually the mindset, right? The problem is usually the mindset. Probably the problem is, what is that thing that I went through 10 years ago that makes me ashamed to show up consistently in front of my audience now?
Yep.
What is that thing that someone told me 5 years ago that makes me hesitant to share what I know with other people right now? Those are the intricacies of the actual problems we're dealing with when it comes to helping people with their content. And so that's been my goal for the past couple of years, is just learning more beyond just the strategies, beyond just the tactics, to the principles, to, you know, the rules that govern everything I do, and using that to help the people that I help. So.
Amazing. That's so good. I love that. Love that. So you mentioned that you worked in both Hollywood. You're a award-winning Hollywood producer.
Yeah.
Right? Turned content. Right? Like you're helping people. You're teaching them, like what you just said. Like there's a difference between learning. There's a difference between applying and action. You know, there's a difference between knowing all these strategies, because we're all just consuming a lot of the same content, just said by a lot of different people, maybe slightly different ways. But, you know, like certain things like what you're doing, like you really actually stood out to me. And what really stood out to me when I first came across your profile was that you were, like you said, you're going into depth. You're breaking down why things are working, right? You got like that element of like reverse engineering, like, hey, look at how this was really cool and it grabbed your attention, but you're like, check this out, right? Like this is what they did here, and this is what they did here, and this is what they did here. And it was like the John Wick 4 piece of content. It was the very first piece of content I ever saw of yours.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, this is awesome. I was like, she's so good. Like, I love what you do. So tell me a little bit about the path to getting to where you are now, to making that transition where you turned into more of a content strategist. And so tell me, you award-winning, what's the award that you won? What did you do in Hollywood? And then back up, you mentioned that there was even some Nollywood in there. So start from, because I'm assuming you went from Nollywood to Hollywood, then turned into the content specialist. Is that accurate?
Content clinician.
Content clinician, even better. I like that. So bring me back to Nollywood. What did you do in Nollywood? You mentioned that you were a graphic designer. That's how I started in film and everything as well. So you're a graphic designer, then you work your way over to Nollywood. Tell me about that.
So it all started way back in college. I'll take you even further back, right? So like back to like when I did my bachelor's degree, I studied communications and multimedia, and I went to the American University of Nigeria, which is a sister school to the American University in Washington, by the way, for anyone who doesn't know. And that's the school I studied at. And, you know, a lot of what we were taught was very hands-on. So if you want to be in communications, you got to know the principles of design. And then you don't only have to know the principles of design theoretically, you have to know them practically. So here's a design assignment, you know, like that's how we learned. We had cameras, we had all that stuff, you know, to like go around and shoot documentaries. I remember now the first documentary I shot, this was way back before we had like, I can't remember what camera it was, but my white balance was off. and the documentary came out looking like purplish because our white balance was like way off. And then we had to use like a filter. This was before even Premiere Pro, right? This was when people were using Final Cut, the first Final Cut Classic, right?
Oh
Which set the pace for Premiere Pro. And I remember we had to use like a sepia filter to like just like slap it on the documentary and hide that the documentary came out purple. But that was how I learned the basics of what I know. Before that, I've always been very creative. So my mom, for instance, is one of the most creative people I know. She draws, she sings, you know, all that stuff. And so I physically look like my dad, the prettier version, but I take after my mom in terms of her artistic abilities and all that stuff. So I sing, I dance, I act. So to Nollywood, I did all those things, right? Singing, dancing, acting, working in front of and behind the cameras. I remember my senior design project was a show. So for my senior design project, we literally launched a show. And for my senior design project, we traveled the country, doing interviews with Nigerian celebrities at the time, right? So that was just for the senior design project. Like we went all out, right? We got like sponsorship and funding and all that stuff. So, and I was one of the presenters of the show, like the hosts of the show for my senior design project. So that's how, as far back as I've been training these skills. Even before that, in college, I was a member of one of the best dance groups in college. Like we used to have dance competitions and win all the time, right? I was the president of the press club, the inaugural president of the very first press club of my university. So all that stuff. I was in the student government, I'm an overachiever, obviously, right? So I did all that stuff. So, and it felt like a natural transition into TV and film. And there's also a lesson to learn from that, right? Because sometimes I feel like you're born with certain skills, and because of the way the world is set up, we automatically assume that those skills are leading us in a certain direction or destination. However, that what you see as a destination might just be a pit stop to where you're actually meant to be. So that's what happened for me, where I had all these skills that I thought I was supposed to use in Hollywood, in Nollywood, right? Entertainment. And it turns out the entertainment industry was just a pit stop to what I do now, I haven't felt this fulfilled about anything else before what I do now, right? This is the most fulfilling endeavor of my life, right? And, but yeah, so Hollywood, Nollywood, Hollywood, all that were just like pit stops. And those skills are there. I tell people that when I use those skills, I just want to use them on my own terms, right? So going back to my story, and then I worked in Hollywood. In Hollywood, I was a supervising producer. The award I won was for my work with Keith Powell, he was an actor on 30 Rock, the TV show. So he was creating like his own story, his own TV show and all that stuff. And I got hired to produce. And we ended up winning an award for that TV series. I won a couple of unscripted TV awards too, as a supervising producer of the unscripted TV series we were working on. But the most significant for me, where it comes to Hollywood, was the one that I worked on with Keith Powell, because he's very Hollywood. Like, they were on a show I was watching on Apple TV. When I say they, him and his wife, they're both actors. They were on a show, I think it's called Shrinked or something like that. But anyways, yeah, so that's where all those things came from. And so what I do now, even as a content coach, I continue to leverage the skills that I've gathered over the years, storytelling skills. Storytelling is a massive part of what I do, helping people tell stories through their content. You're not creating content just for the sake of creating content that's compelling. Guess what? One of the most compelling things for generations since prehistoric times is storytelling, right? So I also teach people how to apply storytelling to their content to make sure that they're keeping grabbing audiences' attention, holding that attention, and then eventually converting that attention into sales for what they do. Trying to see if there's any part I left out. But that's it in a nutshell, though.
Amazing. Yeah. So you mentioned teaching people storytelling. Mm-hmm. How important is storytelling in content for businesses, entrepreneurs, small businesses, but also people like, let's say realtors or agents, or content where it's very typically, you don't see them talking much. They're usually just doing some sort of smooth camera on a little like phone on a gimbal through a house, or house tours. How important would you think, like, if a client came to you, right, and they're a real estate agent or some sort of agent, mm-hmm. or small business that they're making cookies or something, like, how important is telling a story in that content for them?
It is. I can't overestimate or overemphasize just how important storytelling is. And I'll paint a picture and I'll keep it 100. I'll be honest. When you were mentioning all these things, business, entrepreneurs, real estate, like, literally, I felt like I wanted to take a nap, just because I'm a very visual person. And when you speak, I picture what you're saying. So I was picturing all that. So I'm like, this is boring, right? Storytelling is the thing that makes it interesting, right? Storytelling is the thing that takes the boring out of it, right? So the example I use all the time, even before the example that predates literally humanity, right? Humanity as we know it. If you guys go back to like your Western history and all that stuff, and history of humanity, the days of the sketches in the caves and all that stuff were forms of storytelling, right? So storytelling for some reason has always been embedded in the human DNA. As I speak right now, I remember there's something in my culture that also predates like colonial times. And it's called Egwonwa. I tried to get Brandon to say this, and he said it right. It's called Egwonwa. And basically what that was it was just like, so African cultures are very collectivistic, right? So every new moon or full moon or whatever it was, they would like gather and tell stories, right? Storytelling has always been a form of entertainment, even before the advent of technology as we know it today, right? And not only that, think about, for people who have kids, you have kids. What is the thing that can keep your kid entertained for like 30 minutes? YouTube videos of Mickey Mouse and stuff like that. That's the power of storytelling. As young as they are, they haven't had the chance to have anyone convince them of the power of storytelling. They just intuitively are connected to stories, right? That is the power of storytelling for us as people, even as it applies to our businesses, right? So it's important to tell a story, and beyond that, stories help people connect emotionally. I'll give you another example. So the post I shared today, I saw you liked that, right? And it was just basically two kids, and they were competing in this, I think, extreme games type thing, and it looked like one kid was going to win, and then the other kid ended up winning. And I watched that yesterday. I randomly watched it on Twitter. I was like, you know what? People on Instagram would love to see this, because I know how enthralled I was by it. So I assumed that people would love to see that too. And I told a story with it, right? I told a story about the value of consistency with it, because there was one kid who was just like going at his own pace, and and then there was another kid who has these bursts of energy, and then he would gas out, and then have these bursts of energy and gas out. So that's the importance of storytelling. I'm not sure how else I can explain that. It just helps people. It gets people involved in your story. And once you get people involved in whatever it is you do, you've won. That's what storytelling does, because it helps people connect to you emotionally. It helps you get people invested in what you do mentally, emotionally. And once you're able to get people invested in what you do, whatever that is, that's a win for you.
I love that. I love that. That's so good. And I couldn't agree more. Even with my approach with YouTube was always like, man, story is king. You know what I mean? It's like, I know people say like content is king, like all these things. I'm like, yeah, they're all really, really important, right? But when it
You're
really
all kings
comes
of
down
your
to
own
it,
kingdoms.
yeah. Well said. Well said. I've never heard that before. That's great. The way I see story is same as you. Is yes, content is important. Yes, getting attention in this very small, discretionary amount of time that people have where they can actually invest in something or take a break from work or wherever it might be, that tiny little piece of time, right? Yes, I get that. We're all competing for that. But when it really, really comes down to is old as time, like you said, is that story is more important than any of those, because story is those, right? Story becomes that. Right.
Yes.
So if your foundation is built on storytelling, even if it's short, right? You got the 30-second, you got the, that video that you posted, I don't know, it had to have been maybe 60 seconds tops.
It was really
You
short.
know what I mean? Yeah, very, very short. But there was a whole story behind it, right? And you saw that, right? Being the creative, being the storyteller that you are, that's why I love your content.
Yeah.
I would have probably watched that and just been entertained. Like, oh, cool. That kid just whooped his ass. And I thought the other kid was going to win because he took off out of the gate so quick.
Right.
But your perspective on that was really, really cool. And that there's a story in that, right? And when you strip it all the way back past like the content, past the screens, past, that it got my attention, whatever it might be, truly what it was that got the attention and got me to keep watching was that there was a story there, because I was waiting to see how it started, what the transitional moment was, and what the life was, and what happened, what the result was at the end.
There you go. There you go. And that's the story structure right there, the beginning, the middle, and the end. And I always tell people that whenever you want to create content that you want people to see, you have three main goals you want to keep in mind: is grab attention, hold that attention, and at the end, convert that attention, right? My steps usually come in threes, and they all follow the beginning, middle, end model of storytelling. But yeah.
I love that. So how do you approach YouTube videos? Do you do them differently than your short form content?
Yep. So I definitely do them. So first of all, right, to people like Andrew, just like, congratulations on cracking the YouTube game, because YouTube is a different ball game.
YouTube's
right?
a beast. Yeah.
It's a beast. But
it's hard. There's no way around it. It's hard.
I spent all day Sunday recording a 10-minute video. And then I spent most of Monday and Tuesday editing that 10-minute video and then putting it up on Tuesday night. So and usually what I tell people who come to work with me, I'm like, short form content is a good place to start. I personally wouldn't take on YouTube without having had that practice of consistency, because it's like you're building a muscle, right? It's like the way workout works. without having practiced consistency with short form content, I wouldn't take on YouTube because it's a beast, like you said.
That's great.
But the beauty of what we're talking about is the same principles work, right? So on YouTube, I've heard and I'm testing that the first 30 seconds are the most important 30 seconds, right?
Whoever told you that.
Yeah, right. It was spot on. So you want to grab attention within those first 30 seconds, whether it's through your graphics, explosions, whatever. I don't know, right? You want to grab attention, right?
Totally. You should see some stuff we do.
Yeah. So like, like I'm trying it out, So yesterday I had all these like images, like, slide onto the screen. I use my keyframes on Premiere Pro really well, at some point I may enlist the help of After Effects. I don't know. We'll see. But
you're going all in.
Right? Go all in, So those first 30 seconds, right? You want to grab attention. And then I always tell people, beyond just the strategy, I feel like you have a moral obligation to give people a good enough payoff for their attention. Because in the world we live in, attention is currency. It's expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Attention is expensive.
It's the one thing that cannot be renewed.
Absolutely.
Never get it back.
Absolutely.
Time.
And there's so many things vying for people's attention.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't want to use your explosions in the first 30 seconds and then disappoint them because they could have been using that time to pay attention to something else. So I always feel like I have a moral obligation to just hit them with a lot of value after grabbing their attention, right? Yep. And so the middle part, though, is the most difficult part on YouTube because the middle part is usually more lengthy than where it comes to short form content, right? But you just got to keep laying it in.
Yep.
I use jokes, right? I don't necessarily use jokes in my short form content, but I definitely use a few jokes here and there in my long form content just to keep people entertained. And like I said, give them a payoff for their attention. I give them value, a lot of value. And then, the end part, of course, is the next easy part. If you can get them to watch the middle part, you won. That's the way I see YouTube content. If you get them to really take in the middle part, that's a win. The first challenge, the first 30 seconds, and then if you could really get them to listen to the middle part before the end, then good job. So
yeah. The art of mastering long form retention online. It's a tricky thing. A tricky thing. There's certain analytics that you can look at, but for the most part, I'm don't even pay attention to the analytics because there's two ways, right, to really approach this whole thing with data, right? Data usually, if you're a data-driven person, you're a business person, typically.
Right.
You're, okay, I'm data. Let me take a look at the data, the numbers. The numbers tell me if this is good, if this isn't good, or whatever it might be. We got to make adjustments here. We got to make tweaks here, right? That's like a Mr. Beast.
Yeah.
Right. I heard someone say Mr. Beast is the Silicon Valley YouTuber because everything he's obsessed with is numbers, right? So to be the greatest YouTuber in the world is only based on numbers for him, right? So everybody's looking at it going, wow, the greatest, he's the biggest YouTuber of all time. He's got the most numbers, right? That's his whole thing. His whole thing drives that. But people have been pointing out in certain places I've been seeing that he's not a great storyteller. Isn't that interesting? So he's an incredible entertainer, but maybe he's not the best storyteller, right? So when you get done watching a Mr. Beast video, you're kind of like, what the hell happened? You're entertained the whole time. Yeah, it's a re-engagement. It's every second, right? It's like our first 30 seconds is his whole video. That's why it costs so much. You know what I mean? So it's like, whoa. There's always something happening, always something changing, always something new popping up, right? He's figured that out. But again, you could look at the analytics. You can go, okay, when are people dropping off on YouTube? Okay, right there. And it's consistent now over the last 20, 30, 100 videos that people drop off at 3.5 minutes on a 10-minute video, whatever it might be, right? And then you go, okay, I need to make sure I'm at my editing level in post-production or while I'm filming, I'm paying attention that I got to create a re-engagement moment at that moment or right before that moment to pull them back in, right? Rehook them, put another hook in there, whatever it might be, another 30-second type part, where you're grabbing their attention again to pull them back in. Now that's a strategy, something you could do, but there's very little transformational moments in a Mr. Beast video, right? Which means there's not an emotional connection, right? So when emotion hits on a Mr. Beast video, lady's crying, he just gave her car, It's like, oh, you know, I can't believe this is so good. And anyway, this next Lamborghini, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, because I heard it said that he'll look at the analytics and he'll see the drop off starts hitting during that emotional moment. And what they're saying is, it's not that that's a bad story element, even for Mr. Beast, is that he doesn't know how to tell that story correctly.
Oh, yeah.
Because if he could lean into the emotional part of that, he'd probably even keep people watching even longer and then make a connection where there's a transformational moment in that video when people are done watching. They're like, man, I felt moved by that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But instead, it's just entertainment. And instead of learning how to tell a story, he fixed his problem, right, by just entertaining again. Re-engagement moment, high impact moment, whatever it might be, right? So like for me, when I'm approaching YouTube specifically, I always tell people, I'm like, okay, you got to think about like your topic, your thumbnail, you know, your title. Actually, it'd be the order of probably topic, title, thumbnail, and then your first 30 seconds. And then you have to ask yourself when you're thinking about that topic of what's the transformational moment in this video? Like, what's that one main topic, one thing I want them to walk away with, and how do I want them to feel after watching this YouTube video, right? Instead of just going, I want them to be really, really, really incredibly entertained, because that's like junk food. Of course that we're going to grab at that. Of course it's easy, it's quick, it's, you know, it gets your attention, and if he keeps their attention through that. But someone like myself, you know, or even you, like there's depth to what we're doing. Yeah. Right. And that's why we feel fulfilled more than anything that we've ever done. You know what I mean? Absolutely. And it's harder to burn out if we're doing something that we really, truly enjoy, because I've been extremely burned out, like you as well, you know, working in certain types of industries, working with certain types of bosses. And we had a separate conversation off camera, you know, and it's like, man, to avoid that, you know, it's like do something we really, really care about, but also know that you can transform people's lives through this long form content, right? Like you said. So creating those re-engagement moments like that will keep them going. One thing that I started doing too on my vlog channel is anybody who stays to the end, those are the people I really, truly want. That's why I'm like, man, I'm not going to clickbait anymore like I used to in the old days, right? I'm like, I'm not going to clickbait anymore because I'm not as concerned about the numbers anymore, because I'm concerned about true, like people who truly want to be there. Yeah. And then the ones that stay out of, let's say there's 150,000 people or something that watch that, I don't know, the 10,000 that stayed toward the end, those people are freaking amazing, right? Those are the people I want to spend time with, right? Those are the people that at the end, like you said, get the reward at the end for watching, right? So it's like, man, leave a whatever in the comments if you're still here, because if you're still here, man, I freaking love you. I really appreciate you. I can't believe you're here. That means that you really took the time, that we're connecting, and I love that connection because I want to have a community. Meet me in the comments. Let's continue this conversation. You know what I mean? Like something like that, and then be able to just continue to build that, you know, that community. That's like YouTube is all about community, right? But also entertainment.
Absolutely. And you know, just to add to that, for business owners who have like other offers and you're looking to build an audience for what you do and what you have, the value that you have, those people who can stick it through are the people you want, because it is telling of their character, right? So people with short attention spans can't be great business owners. I'm sorry. Because literally in business, you want to fall in love with being bored. I think it was James Clear who said that, right? You have to fall in love with being bored, with doing the same things over and over again until they start to work, right? So if you can't commit to a 10-minute YouTube video, then I'm sorry, we got some more bigger problems. You know what I mean? So yeah, versus like someone like Mr. Beast, where it's like, it's just entertainment. And you have Mr. Beast equivalents on platforms like Instagram as well, you know, just churning out, just entertaining content, and they're not really looking to connect in any meaningful way. Right. That's where you decide what is the story you want to tell about yourself. Who are you? Right? Like you said, like you implied, what is the thing that if I look back on it in 5 years, I'll be proud of, right? Because you might get the growth, right? But is it sustainable? Can you look yourself in the mirror? If your answer to those things are yes, then you do you, boo, you know?
100%.
And so, yeah, that's it. Another person I'd like to recommend to you, Drew, and this is just for curiosity's sake, I'd like to hear what you think of it later, is Myron Golding.
Yeah.
Have you watched his videos?
I have some, yes.
I feel like he's broken the mold of everything we've been taught about YouTube over the past couple of years, because visually it's not on par with many other YouTube channels out there, but the value though, right? And people stay for that. I could
Mhm.
watch a 1 hour long Myron Golding video and not feel like they're like, I don't feel like I've lost any time at all,
Right.
right? So I'd like for you to like study that and let me know your thoughts. But yeah, that would be
Yeah,
offline.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I would definitely love to look into that because,
Awesome.
again, like that to me, there's two different types of value, and there probably is more, but like the two main that you can obviously really, really quick think about on YouTube, two types of value is right, entertainment value and then like depth of value, right? Where it's like you're like, dang man, like I just watch. I could never, ever watch an hour long video of Mr. Beast ever.
Too much.
Yeah, you're like, holy, that was my brain on Adderall. Like that was a lot. You know
I
what I mean?
feel that.
You would be
Yeah.
sweating and probably lightheaded by the end of that. You're like, holy
Yeah.
shit, that was an hour long of Mr. Beast, and I sat through the whole thing. You're like, eyes are all bloodshot.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? But like you said, like listen to like Myron, you're like the whole time, you're like, damn, let me take notes.
I'm taking notes.
Because your life, that's what I'm talking about, like that transformational element.
Absolutely.
Mr. Beast does not have that.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of these entertainers, they don't have that. Yes, they're telling stories. Yes, they are telling stories. Right. But it's entertainment. But
Yep.
like what you said, like there's like a certain, like what we were talking about, like there's a transformational element that you can go, like what we were talking about, even storytelling. Here's your life before, boom, something explodes or whatever it is, a transformational moment that changes your life. And then here's your life after, and that's how I like see YouTube videos and approach YouTube videos. It's like, okay, here's their life now. This is why they clicked maybe, because like you said, there's kind of an element to guessing on all of it, right?
Yeah.
But we make our best educated guesses, right? So boom, here's their life. They watch this video, boom, something transformational happened in this video that transformed me or whatever, transformed them. And then their life afterwards, I want them to leave better, right?
Yep.
Like, so like a Myron video, you're watching that for an hour and afterwards, is your life better?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Not only your
Yep.
life is better, your mood is better. Because I always tell people, like someone like Myron, one of his gifts is the ability to transfer belief, right? Belief in yourself, right? Which is the antithesis to what a lot of people do with their content, where they sort of scare you into engaging with them. If you don't do this, this will happen to you. But it's like it's different. Myron, like he empowers you. He lets you know, like it is possible, and because he lets you know it's possible, you're like, yeah, I want to work with him. You know what I mean? That's who I want to be. I want to be the kind of person who empowers people. I want to be the kind of a person who makes people feel better about themselves. After engaging my video, you feel better about yourself. So
You do.
that's my goal. So
Yeah, I love. Yeah, with your content, I love that. After I'm done watching, it's always like this aha moment. Like, holy crap! Like, aha, I see. Interesting,
that was
right?
a aha moment for me right now. I'm like,
Good. That means we're providing value and substance. So we're changing your life. When you're done with this YouTube video, you can be like, dang, like this is my life before. We just transformed it, and this is your life better afterwards. So awesome.
I know exactly. I'm glad that that's how it's coming off. Because that's like, you have goals and you don't really know if you're hitting that goal. So I'm
Right.
glad that that's how it's translating. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is great. I know you've got another meeting that you got to get going to, and I was a little bit late today, so we can start wrapping it up here at 45 minutes instead of an hour. But seriously, thank you so much for your time, Cynthia. Can you, because I know you have incredible value. You are, so far from what I've seen, you are different, you're unique, you're one of a kind in this content. I've never seen content, right, that you're like, holy crap, as a content strategist or a content clinician, right? I'm looking at it, I'm like, every single time you're inspiring me and I'm learning. So what I want to do is I would love for you to tell, my audience as well, the listeners, wherever they're watching or listening to this, like, how can they work with you for one? What's in it for them, right? And where they can follow you.
First of all, the easiest way to contact me is through my Instagram page. That's where Drew and I met, and it's at Cynthia Dieyi. I'm sure Drew will put the spelling in the show notes. The thing I'm working on right now, which is what I believe and I've tested to deliver the quickest results to people, and then they can decide what they want to do with that result, is my 100 days to 10K workshop, right? And basically, I told the story of how I was able to grow my Instagram page from 0 to over 10,000 followers in less than 100 days and build a 5-figure business. I have condensed the knowledge that I learned on that journey into a 3-day workshop series. And I did the first one last month. The next one comes up this month, and then every month after that. And the website is www.100daysto10kfollowers.com. And so for anyone who might be interested, check that out. Check out that workshop. The people who attended the workshop last month told me they had never gotten I had some content creators there who were like, I've never heard this before. Or I've never, like you said, no one has ever explained it to me that way before, So check that out. That is, for me, the lesson I learned on that, all the lessons I learned on that 100-day journey, I condensed into that workshop, and it will give you way, way, way more value and help you at least take the next steps to where you want to be. So yeah, those are the two things I have: my Instagram page and 100 days to 10K kickoff.
Love it. I love it. Make sure you go check her out, guys. She's absolutely phenomenal. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure that you give us a thumbs up. The algorithm, help us out a little bit here. Just a little bit of little sprinkles on top. Leave us a comment if you have any questions about content. If there's anything really good, I'll definitely pass it on to Cynthia. I'm like, Cynthia, go check the comments. No, I'm just kidding. But make sure you guys just connect with us. We'd love to connect. For sure, like I said, follow her. So thank you, Cynthia, and we will see you guys next podcast.
Thanks, Drew.
One.